Okay, so the session is going to be recorded, okay? And good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As parents, many of us are navigating the questions about how learning is changing in the age of AI. So today's sessions is intentionally designed to be open and conversational. So there's no right or wrong questions here. So you're very welcome to participate in whatever way feels comfortable to you by listening, asking questions, or sharing reflection. Okay, so as we collected your questions, I organized them into the key themes. So the sharing sessions will begin with a guided conversation around these themes, and then followed by open space for your questions and discussion. So if you don't know me, I'm Regina, and I will be moderating today's session. So I work in the education with a strong interest in learning sciences and bridging the research and practice to help parents and children better understand how learnings work. And I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Chan Ying-Jue, founder and chief researcher at OT Neuro Learning Institute. So Ying-Jue is a researcher and educator working at the intersection of the human brain and AI. She holds an MPhil from the University of Cambridge, where she studied language and the brain. She works with organizations and professionals to support the thoughtful adoption of AI. And through this work, she shared grounded perspective on how AI is shaping learning and thinking in everyday life. So thank you so much, Ying-Jue. I'm very, personally, I'm sure everybody as well have this pleasure to have you and to share with us today. So to begin with, Ying-Jue, from your perspective as a researcher working at the intersection of human brain and AI, how do you understand the relationship between AI and learning today? And what do you think parents should be most attentive to?
Thanks, Regina, for the introduction and question. I think I must start to give a disclaimer first that I don't have kids. So that's a disclaimer, and I really respect all of you who have kids. And I think interesting observation I realized here today is all of us are females. Somehow we are more concerned about education, which is also the similar pattern we see in the education field is usually more females. So actually, the question was about the relationship between AI and learning, right? So I like to just start to understand a bit. What are you guys? What are your? How much do you know about AI? So maybe if you can share, anyone can share like what do you understand by AI? Maybe someone can share.
Go ahead.
Okay, maybe I think easy. Maybe rate like 1 to 5 your understanding. 1 to 5, what's your understanding about AI?
Should we point the finger? 2, 3, 4, 5.
It's okay. I can start first. To me, AI is definitely not a tool. It's how do I call it? It's more like an infrastructure in that we can tap into to develop all kind of invention. I would not say just an assistant because it will be so much underrated, and it will help us or to tap into our better potential to utilize all kind of the resources around. That's to me to step into the era of AI is very much an exciting anticipation for me.
Nice. How about others? How much do you understand about AI? 1 to 5. 1 is like I kind of know about it, but I don't know what it is. 5 is like, oh, I actually like read a lot about AI and all that.
Hi, this is Poppy.
Hi.
I feels like I'm not quite sure how much degrees do I really understand AI, to be honest, because some of my friends who works at the AI industry, they will tell me very, very different opinions about it. But on the social medias or like Elon Musk, they will be like warning us this is gonna be a like, very dangerous tools and all that kind of stuff. So to be honest, I'm not quite sure what really um um like the powers of AI, how powerful it is gonna be. But to my extent of understanding, I feels like it is based on the humans' current technology and a database, and then they will expand from the database that we have already today have, and then they will just kind of like evolve from the database we already have. So as far as I know, if we don't have that kind of thing originally, AI can't really replicate of that.
Mm,
But the issue or the problem or the powerful um, point of AI maybe is because they have a very large database, and that's why they can mix and match and then kind of like evolve into a very like basically like a super computer. And that's all I know. I would say I will only understanding AI for 2 to 3, to be honest. Yeah.
wow. All right. Thanks for sharing, Yvonne and Poppy. So actually, I think I want to just start by clarifying a bit what does AI mean and how did AI actually come to what it is today? Like what's the history and evolution of it? So actually AI has been around for decades. The research has started. Very first, the term was coined by Alan Turing, called the term artificial intelligence. And in the past decades, most of the people who work in AI are like computer scientists that they need to know how to code. They need to know all these complex mathematical models and code in order to work with AI. But in 2022, the ChatGPT came out during that time. And with ChatGPT, actually, there's this new AI technology called the large language model. And because of this large language model, it actually allow everyone to kind of interact with AI by using human language. So you don't need to know coding, you don't need to know maths, but just using language skills, we are able to communicate with computers. So that is actually one of the revolutionary point of why AI suddenly is like boom into everywhere in our lives, because now everybody has access to this technology. Um, and I think there were a bit, I think Poppy mentioned something about like whether it will evolve into a super intelligence and all that. Well, I think like in terms of that, we are still scientists are still trying to understand that. But for sure, AI has actually mastered the language part of intelligence. And that is actually a very big part of intelligence, because if you look at intelligence, there are three main things that allow us to become humans with advanced brain today. And the first was actually we were able to stand upright. So in the past, our ancestor used to like walk on four limbs, but then when they stand up, they actually free their hands. So hands are able to do more movement. So in terms of like AI and computer development, you see that in robotics. And then the second one is language for sure. And third is on how to embody this intelligence. So what we see now with AI or computer intelligence, they are very good in very specific tasks. So for example, ChatGPT masters language. Then you have like robotics that can run around using controller or what so. But if you ask ChatGPT to drive a car, it actually can't do it by itself. So you need to merge that technology with several other technology in order to form a self-driving car. So that is the kind of AI that we have today. They are what we call like artificial narrow intelligence, means they are very focused on each specific task. And what we can do is we can merge them together so then they can perform more complex tasks. But whether it can surpass human intelligence, I think that will, it depends on number one, like how do you define human intelligence? Because if we want to talk about that, then you have to talk about consciousness. Does AI have consciousness, or is it just being programmed? Let's say I can program a robot, I can put in a ChatGPT program so then it can understand my language, put in some programs so it can walk around. But ultimately, does it have consciousness or not? I think that is key point of whether this AI will exceed this super intelligence kind of phase. So coming back to learning, I think because AI have mastered human language, which is a very big part of human intelligence, and therefore it actually changes learning a lot. Because to be honest, like learning, a large part of it is also to do with language. I think just now, like Yvonne mentioned a bit about like the unschooling, which is like the unconventional method. You actually go out and like learn by experience and all this, and this is about like the 4D world, right? But if you think about schooling and what so, it's very language based. You do exams, you do homeworks. So in terms of this, because AI can do really, really well in language, I think a rising problem nowadays is also like, oh, what if my kids, they just use AI to just submit the assignment lah, and then they get good grades? Does that mean they really learn, right? So I think the advancement of AI kind of forces us to change how we used to do things, including traditional schooling methods might need to change. We need to include more of these physical movements and experiential kind of learning, which AI can help as a tool in terms to accelerate the development of those. So I think what AI presents is like, it can be scary at times because of how, first of all, like how these large companies manage their AI and manage the data. That's one thing to worry of. But at the same time, I think the technology provides us a lot of opportunities because it really forces us to rethink how we used to do things and change all of that. And if we really take this opportunity to change it, we can actually provide a better future for education and learning. So that's my take on that.
Thank you. So that's a helpful way to frame it. So if I understand you correctly, so I would like to unpack few ideas that you have just mentioned about. So AI is master of human language. That's actually changed the way how we learn as well, right? And AI is now the way, like when we're using AI. So AI is changing the way how we're doing things. So instead of looking at a trade, so it's actually bring out a lot of opportunities to human being in this social life. So in that case, so actually I would like to, that's bring me to my the next question. So when introducing AI, so because it's we have experiencing as an adult, right, using all these AI tools because we call it like, for example, mostly what we concentrate at, it's ChatGPT, Gemini to create photo, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
when introducing AI into children's learning, so we're seeing very different approaches internationally. So I'm talking about in a different setting. So at such, for example, like in Taiwan has recently released official school guidelines for AI use as primary and secondary levels. Meanwhile, in France, currently does not encourage AI at all used for students in primary and lower secondary education. So from your perspective, do you think there is an appropriate age to start with using AI, or ages where it should be avoided? So what guiding principles should parents adopt to using AI in learning?
Yeah, so I think with all these powerful tools and technology, the kind of like safeguard policies that we have is like very important. Let's say a very simple example of like calculator, right? When would you want to give your kids to use a calculator? Ultimately, maybe they should still learn how to use a calculator, but probably you also want them to learn the fundamentals of like maths. Like they must at least do plus and minus or multiply division before they actually gain the access to use a calculator. So of course, with AI, it's much more complex than that. But I think the idea is the same. We still want our children and kids to actually go through the fundamentals of learning, which I think that is the main problem right now, because sometimes learning becomes very focused on like the outcome. We talk about complete this homework assignment grades, and you forgot that actually it's the process of you learning, the going through the struggle of learning. So a very simple example, let's say I have an online quiz, and then actually I can just ask all the question to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT will give me the answer to the quiz. But how do you know whether you are learning? It's like when you get the answer, do you just like, okay, I click the answer and submit, or do you actually read and you understand and you try to process? Because that process is what helps you learn. So I think actually it comes back to a very fundamental problem of like, what's the value of us and what's the purpose of us doing learning and education? And if the children themselves understand the purpose of, okay, why they need to do this, then it's okay to give them the technology, because they know that ultimately their purpose is to learn and technology is just to help. But if we didn't really cultivate that sort of purpose and then you just give them technology, it's very easy they will fall into you just using the technology without kind of using their own brain, which is the problem with like, let's say like nowadays, I think I see a lot of parents, right? They just give their kids the iPad, and then the kids will be just like scrolling. And because of all these technology tools, they are actually designed to kind of hijack your brain and just give your brains a lot of reward, and then you're like, okay, addicted to that reward. So I think it should be a balance. And the most important thing is like they need to understand the purpose, because when they understand, then only they can choose to, okay, when can I use AI and when should I stop using AI? And to provide children with the ability to know when to use and when to not use, I think that is the fundamental. But it's very challenging, of course.
Yes, it is. I mean, like for parents to like now, as what you have mentioned just now, like the iPad. So kids will just go and ask, "Can I play iPad? I feel bored." Right. So it's like not giving the iPad what children are doing, what parents are giving. So this is kind of like, I mean, like it's a modern issue in a lot of modern families today. So which also actually you have mentioned about the fundamental skills. So the fundamental skills about reading, writing, calculating, like I mean, like make like the basic, the arithmetic, all these things, it seems like more important than before. It seems like,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yes, it's I mean, it has always been important, but I think we kind of forget about it sometimes. So with the advancement of technology, ironically, it pushes us to go back to the fundamentals. But actually, I also like wanted to share. I think yesterday I heard a friend saying her forgot one of her siblings who had a kid, and then like the parent was using AI to make storybooks for the kid.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very useful way of using AI, and it's like it actually does help the kids learning. I think they were teaching Bahasa, and with I don't know if any of you guys used Gemini before. So Gemini has this function, a storybook function, where you can create storybooks. So what the mother did was just instead of teaching the kids the vocabulary, she used the Gemini to create a storybook about the vocabulary, and then the kid enjoy reading because it's a storybook. So it's like even that actually is a good way of using AI.
Yeah. That's remind me of a story as well. Actually, as I have I share one of my my students, they're actually using AI to make to compose their music. They actually write their song, but they're using AI to compose music, like making music. So in that sense, like using technology to help them, the purpose here is not just learning itself, but like trying to maximizing whatever tools that we have to improve, to like to facilitate what that we are not able to do. So that's probably my bring it back to how at the beginning you frame it as it's an what we call like the narrow AI tools. So yeah, we're focusing on these narrow AI tools. So at some point also you have mentioned about just now about balancing. It's actually leads me to this. It's just that yesterday, okay, so I just reading these recent papers. Okay, it's written by Bastani and his colleagues in 2025. This the topic is the title of the research is Generative AI Without Guardrails Can Harm Learning from High School Mathematics. So wow, so this study reveals that while AI-based tutoring can improve performance during practice, but students who rely heavily on the technology may later on underperform when AI access is removed. So, which indicating the weaker skill acquisition. So study suggests that the generative AI without the guardrails can harm learning. So what I'm curious about your opinion in what kind of guardrails a parent should provide. So what does a healthy involvement with AI during homework, let's say, actually look like?
Right. So I think if we go back to the main like philosophy of the framework of what's important, is actually about the kind of higher order thinking skills. It's about the critical thinking and the creativity, even with the example that you shared, right, Regina? I think that was a very good example. In fact, that is the new pattern that we see, that more and more people, they are kind of over relying on AI. And when you're over relying on AI, then you are not activating your thinking. So when we are introducing this technology to our children, or even when we use it ourselves, it's very important that you still maintain the human thinking part of it. So one kind of framework that we usually teach our learners, it's called the human AI burger. We just name it burger for fun. But so in a burger you have the patty, which is the meat, and then you have the bun, right? And in order for the burger to be complete, you need to have the bun at the top and the bottom.
Sorry.
Oops. Oh, okay. So translating that into using AI is like, okay, so before you use AI, that's the top bun. is a bun. It's actually a human process. So you have human, which is the bun, and then at the end, so the patty is the AI, which is the meaty part, right? You use AI. But when you before and after you use AI, you must always have the human to be in the workflow.
So it's
That
like
means
double check.
Yeah, so a lot of people, they do double check. I think that's like, okay, after I use the AI, then I will like double check and edit. But a lot of people forget, like, even before, you must always start with the human, and that is about the intention. Like, okay, why are you using AI? What's your intention? What's the objective? For example, if today I want to create a storybook, my objective is because I want to learn vocabulary, so I create a storybook. But if you never start with that human intention and just straight away go in and create the storybook,
Later. Okay.
you'll be like, oh, okay, it's so fun. And then I'll just create a lot of storybook. And then like suddenly it's like, okay, I already forget why I do this. And then you will lost your thinking skill. So I think before is also very important. Before, during, and after must always have that human intention. It always comes back to the objective, lah, I think. Whenever you use AI for something, you must always ask yourself or have that habit of like, okay, what's the objective of you using this AI for? And when you have that very clear intention in mind, then it's like it will always guide you back to activating your own brain on, okay, why are you gonna do this and so on.
Okay, so it's like we must have our first human intention and our objective. It's always have to start from ourselves. So it's the human control, right? Then we go through the AI. Then when AI have something, release something, then we have to
And
do
with
our human editing again.
Yes,
right?
always start and end with the human.
Yeah. So this is what you suggest that this is what parents should also help their children to do it if they are using AI to do their homework, etc.
Yeah. Yes. So if you are if they are using AI to do homework, then before you wanna be clear, okay, what are you using this particular AI for? You don't just like, oh, I have a homework, then I just use AI lah, just throw everything inside. Then it's very easy to over rely because it's so easy to get the answer. But if you start, okay, why are you using this AI? Okay, maybe I want to get more faster answer, and then okay, what's the objective, and what is the task, or even what is the use case? What type of AI can I use for this purpose? Then that's before, and then during using AI, you interact with AI and so on, and then when you finish using the AI, you reflect again. Okay, now the AI give me this answer. Do I just like copy paste everything, or like actually you have to read through and say, oh, okay, this one maybe it's sounds a bit sus, maybe I want to double check, or like this one is like, oh, maybe I can learn from this AI.
Yeah, you have highlighted this like, oh, maybe I can, maybe I can learn this from this AI. Oh, is it correct or whatsoever? This for me is metacognitive skills, right?
Yes,
So
yes, that's very true.
So that's actually leads to the one of the primary concerns. One of the questions is related to critical thinking skill, like what you have mentioned just now is higher order thinking and metacognitive thinking. So and how AI might affect children's connective and connection development. So, for example, I'm just for my own experience. So, because I write papers, so sometimes I have, traditionally we will send our papers to editor, they edit, they will check whatsoever. So now by skipping this process, so we're using ChatGPT as editor. So I will just put it in edit for ChatGPT to edit. Then I somehow, the more that we use them, like the more that we are so comfortable with these tools, then we actually rely on, it's going to be right. Then it's what my idea in it, right? So but then sometimes, so I have to really push myself. Like, don't forget, I have to always check. I'm the final reader. I'm final editor to prove everything. Give it to me. So like I have so hard time, okay, I mean like to fight with my brain. How can children do that?
Yes, precisely. I think especially when you say when you are kind of in the mood of doing that, or like when you
Yes.
get too much tasks come at once, it's very easy to forget. So first, I think there needs to be a very standardized workflow or approach, or like it's kind of like a time limit thing, right? Like when you're playing your phone, you want to set a time limit to that. So that is a cue for your brain to always come back. So it's like maybe every you can schedule like every week you will have a time to review about, okay, in this week how have I been using AI? Then you can reflect on that. So to have this kind of consistent checkpoints, I think that helps to break the cycle and just recalibrate. Second thing is like I do this with my ChatGPT. I personalize it. So in like ChatGPT or Gemini, you can add like personalization, right? So I actually do add this into the AI, which is like I will tell the AI your task is not to give me answers, but to work together with me to find the solutions. So if you are not clear, you must ask me questions. Don't just give me answers. Always ask me questions. So this kind of what they call like Socratic prompting, which is instead of asking AI give you answer, you ask the AI to ask you questions. That actually help you to activate your metacognitive skills, because the AI will ask you questions, and when you're answering, you are actually activating that metacognition skills already. So I think this kind of uh like things that you can integrate into the workflow when you're using AI. And then secondly is to have the regular check-in with yourself. Even with our learners, it's like sometimes it's like we'll just organize activity that we call it disconnect to reconnect, which is we'll just invite everyone to go to the park and like, just walk in the park and just disconnect from technology a while. Because when you are too into that moment, you will kind of forget.
Yeah, I like the idea of disconnect and reconnect. So it's like, well, I think that's everyone's able to do it, right? So it's like when we feel tension or stress, we just want to take a walk and then to release our mind. Or some people will just do meditation, or like like focusing on different things, then come back to it. So what actually it's I think what I get is one of the most important thing is like your regular check-in. We have to regular ask ourselves, because our internal world is so important that that's directing us to how we accept the external world. So I think that's a very powerful tools that we can give to our kids. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
I just have a quick questions or like just
Yes.
thoughts,
Okay.
So because personally, I feels like I use ChatGPT most of the time just for like very simple tasks, like just for correcting my grammar, so that I don't have to use my brain.
Yeah.
So those kind of things is very basic stuff for an adult to write, right? So we read stories, we watch a movies for the content, but actually we can just type in few words and then we get the synopsis of the movie, or we can get a summary of the book. So what I was thinking is, what is the degree or what is the extent that we can control our kids to not losing their attention span? Because I think that is the most important thing that we have been losing, even for myself, like now I don't have much patience to read any kinds of reels. I will just fast forward in it because my attention span is losing it. So for me, I was just thinking it loud right now, like what can we do to help our kids to, you know, because yes, we can proofread it as the final editors, but at the same time, I think the more we use AI,
Yes.
the more we rely on it, and then
Yes.
the more we would just our little brain cannot like we cannot fight against like a supercomputer with their database. So it's almost like back in the days we would use our phone books to write down the numbers, but
Mm-hmm.
now you just completely believe your iPhone for just put on a dial.
Yeah.
You wouldn't check the numbers.
Yeah.
And I believe that in the later days we will just use the AI in um, that kind of usage. So what can we control or what can we do before our kids have the ability to recognize if they are using it to train their brain or
Mm-hmm.
they're just using it for the sake of it, just
Right.
for knowing because even my husband, like he loves to watch movie by reading the synopsis. And I was like, why? Like you're just losing the whole point. Like people spend so much time to take a movie and then you have to, and then but this is his character. He just loves to know what happens first and then he watched the movie. Instead, I would love to not knowing anything, just to watch the movie from head to toes. So how can we, like even in adults, we have different
Yes.
characters, and then like how can we help our kids to, you know, to think before they input a task for the ChatGPT or like for the AI to help them to solve a problem? Because it's really easy for all of us to just know the result instead of to treasure the process. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure that you understand what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, I think that is a common problem in the modern society because things are happening so fast. I mean, social media every second you are there are something to engage you. And I think the generation nowadays, their attention span is very low because they are constantly overwhelmed by all kinds of information. It's like a lot of music, a lot of image. It's like constantly your brain is actually taking in a lot of stuff at one same point. If you compare it to in the past, like analog era, there's not so much things. Even the buildings are simple. You just like look at you read books and all. But today it's like you multitask so much. So the brain actually takes in a lot of information at one same time. So I think one very powerful thing, which is the most simple thing, is just to have this kind of off-screen time and to just pause a bit and slow down, which I know sometimes it's hard because of the attention span thing, but to schedule that sort of no technology time. And what is important in this context is the human connection bit, because actually that's missing the most when we talk about technology era, social media, and all that. What's missing a lot is the real human connection. So if you can foster that kind of human connection in family time, let's say just everyone go to the park for a walk, slowly you develop you help the mind to calm down from all that overstimulation, and there's more space for the brain. And when there's more space for the brain, then they can think about metacognition. Because if you're currently bombarded with all the information, there's no space for the brain, and the brain will just like want more. So it's about creating the space, and usually that just means pause and just sit down, have some tea, talk about life, or just go in the park and touch some grass. Um, this kind of activities, like very human activities, I think it will help to kind of balance out the amount of technology that we have today.
Can I ask a question?
Mm.
I think we are the last generation that ever know what is life be without internet connection. So unfortunately, the generation right after us, they
Yeah.
are born into this era with the technology connection. So without network connection is an unimaginable world for them.
Yeah.
So so that come to my question, what do you call, how do you define we are over relying on technology or AI? Because AI means that we don't
Yes.
have to rely on ourselves to complete any task that we want to. And it is actually not, because it's called intelligent, we are supposed to be fully rely on it and we don't have to cross-check it. That is the whole purpose of generative intelligence heading towards. So how do we define when are we over relying? Because it's meant to be really intelligent and able to complete the task at a higher intelligent level that we can.
I mean, I'm not sure about how we wanna develop AI, which I think that is the central discussion of AI scientists nowadays. To what extent do you want to develop an intelligent? Because like
Is it within control that we can control the development? I have the impression that it is not within how much we can control the development, because they are developing themselves by learning just like us as a human being, constantly on a learning. The difference is they learn a lot and they don't have to rest, and they have each other soaking up the information and digesting and understanding it just like how
Yeah.
we learn.
So you
Yeah,
mean
so
like is there a limit to how much AI
yeah,
can
so because when you were saying that the scientists could are studying how
Yes.
to limit, so that's brought to my
Yeah.
another question is like, do we, are we?
So actually, to develop AI, and I think that is one kind of bottleneck that they will face now, that they cannot break through to another stage of development, is because of the energy consumption. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but actually, generative AI, they take up a lot of technology. So for comparison, if you ask a Google search a question, the amount of electricity and water usage they need for you to ask ChatGPT a question is 10 times the amount you ask Google a question. So every time you ask ChatGPT a question or you ask it to make a video or whatsoever, there's all these data centers running to power that computational machine. So they are making very quick calculations. And when you do that, then the machine will get like overheated. So then they need water to cool it down. So in terms of resources for AI, actually, it burns a lot of natural resource in terms of water and electric. And if we want to break through for the AI to, be super intelligent, you need to solve this problem first. But when it comes to human brain, we can do a lot of things with just very little kind of energy. So that's the difference of a computer brain and a human brain. So in terms of whether computer brain will like develop until they're super intelligent, I think there's still like a lot of major hurdles that AI scientists have to go through, and there's also definitely a lot of talk about ethics and so on. And that's why it's also good for everyone to understand about this, so then you can have a say in like the development of AI. Like, do you think you want AI to develop until a super intelligent kind that can just replace humanity or so on? But I think yes, there is a physical kind of resource limit to that. So in terms of that, I think until we solve that, we are still far away. But I think what you mentioned was the internet that is available to all of us nowadays. And whether are we considering ourselves over relying on AI, then that comes back to the question of whether you're activating your metacognition. Because I think if our ultimate goal is to let AI to do everything without us engaging our own brain, I don't think there seems to be, I mean, I don't think that's what I believe lah. Because at the end of the day, then there's no point already, you know, if that's the goal of us developing AI. But I think for me, how I view it is AI is always just there to help. But at the end of the day, human must be the master. So we still have to kind of engage our brain.
Okay, thank you, Inche. We have Shinny raise your hand, right?
Yeah, sorry,
Okay.
I was driving just now. So I actually have a curiosity about this topic, right? So how do we guide the children's? Because on one hand, we know that AI is something that unstoppable, and there's a lot of saying that in order to not be replaced by AI is you have to master it. So and this is what we always seen already in especially in our workforce where
Yeah.
all the boss or everybody will be like just rushing to push everybody to master AI, even prompts whatsoever, just use it and learn it. But on the other side, on the funny thing is we continue seeing on the educational level that you will see like this professor, lecturer or teacher, tutor are very angry on the student who is utilizing the AI to submit their assignments or to so-called get some sort of like shortcut in learning. I mean, in the way that the position is like on the educational level, they are like feeling like there has to be a delay. So now, if we're talking about even from a younger generation, like children, so I believe even on the stage of now, they are still developing their cognition skill. So and maybe in the our so-called last generation, we learn it maybe different with our parents, but we still hands-on. We still have all this opportunity to like experience failure and the pressure of not able to find the answer and eventually get to the path. Those are the moments that you really learn and really remember. So now for the children suddenly being given with the tools like AI, it's a magic box, you key in, you get the answer. And how do we, safely guide them? How much of exposure that is supposed to be sufficient so that they will not be one hand, get used to this shadow thinking because for them, whenever thinking deeply, ask the GPT, they will know the answer and they already give up, right? So on the other, we are like, if they don't expose, they may be left behind and later, they are going to be
Yeah.
replaced by AI. So how to
Yes.
balance this out?
Yes, definitely. I think the art of balancing that is the most challenging part because either extreme is not gonna work. If you ban your students from using AI, they're still gonna use it some way. If they want to cheat, they will have ways to do it. But on the other hand, there's the worry like, okay, if you give it to them, then will they over rely on it? So the key is about how you use it. So it's not about whether you use or not, it's about how you use it, right? So for example, let's say children, if you want to expose them to AI, so do you give them like just watch some YouTube videos or AI videos and just let them keep on having that dopamine hit and be happy and then like not use their brain? Or is there another more resourceful way that we can expose AI to them that also engage their learning muscles? For example, they can be using AI to play robotics, to kind of create their own AI project. And I think anything to do with creating, that's actually activating your high order thinking skills. So instead of just passively receiving, which is the lowest level of the cognitive skills, can we create an environment where the students or the children, they're actively participating in the creation process? Because then when you're doing in the process of creating stuff, then that is when they actually develop their brain to learn.
So yeah, actually, would like to top up a bit in the, because Shinny, you have talking about highlighting the university, where a lot of lecturer kind of like we can see from video as well, like they prohibit the learners using the AI ChatGPT. So one of the thing is like we have to rethink. I mean, like just a questions for everybody. We should have rethink that, like our assessment framework, because it's heavily based on essay writing. It's not talking about thinking, checking our critical thinking, right? So if purely essay writing, what will you do as a student to score high marks? Definitely, you will just put it in ChatGPT, right? So that's how we can get our project in a high mark assessment, etc. So we have to rethink our assessment design.
Yeah.
Right. And then the second thing, actually, shadow thinking. I wanted to ask one question. What do you think about our education system? Did it allow us to go for higher order thinking? Instead of writing something creative text, we are copying homework. Would that enhance our critical thinking? I mean, like in our current education setting. So right, if that's not actually encourage shadow thinking, how does using AI encourage metacognitive thinking? Because the children don't actually learn how to think basically in current education setting, right? That's just the questions we have. I think we should go and first ask this question, right? So yeah, that's my point of view. Many parents focus on obvious risk, but the landscape is becoming more complex nowadays. So if we pay attention carefully nowadays, so the larger technology companies, they are increasingly introduce AI-assisted learning and education platform for school worldwide, right? So we have this Google Gemini AI for educators at learning. And then we also have now OpenAI is providing everything, providing new education tools for school. So in this context, like teachers may become, like the program designer within these systems, and children will effectively become the future user of these technologies companies, and also data contributors. So, but most of the time we don't actually knowing or understand everything about it, then it's already revealed everything of us. So from your perspective, what kind of data might children be sharing unknowingly in this learning environment? Or what are the key privacy or security issue as parents should be more attentive to?
Yeah, I think this is a very major issue as well. Even before you have AI, there's already a lot of this kind of issue, like kids, they might just get scammed or when they are buying some, when they're playing games on iPad or whatsoever. And with AI, I think it just accelerates that problem more. So definitely very important is to give the kind of education on data privacy since a very young age, which I think in Malaysia, we don't really have much understanding about data privacy. But I feel like in the EU, they're a bit more particular with data privacy. Like, for example, your kind of IC number and all these are all actually PDPA that you shouldn't share around. But I feel like in Malaysia, we just do that. We just share a lot of things around. That's one thing. And there's a lot of, when we say, okay, what considers as a privacy data, anything that can identify, that can help identify you, that will be considered as privacy data. So for example, your name, your address, your date of birth, all these will be considered as privacy data. So you want to be careful with that because you don't want someone to be able to identify you based on this kind of thing that they can find, and they can find it in real life. But I know that now we are kind of being public with a lot of all these things. For example, actually your face is also considered a privacy data, but because of Facebook nowadays, everyone just have your face on Facebook. But I think I see what some parents do is when they are, especially kids, if they are minors, right, then you want to kind of reduce those exposure, because it's very easy for some bad people. They can just take the kid's face and do some deep fake and then come and like scam you. And I think also recently there's a lot of scams on like they kind of kidnap the kids and so on. Not just that, there's also scam on like they kidnap the parents, because you know the elderly, like 50-year, 60-year-old, they are also more prone to scams. So what I think in the family you can do is like actually have some sort of maybe like, you know, a secret code or something. Let's say you get a call and this person is like using your kid's face or your kid's voice and say, I kidnap your kid. Maybe you can have this secret code with your kid. Like let's say like you say a secret kind of word and then they have to answer that secret word to, and then that you just keep it between yourself, so then you can double check that when scammer try to scam you. So it's like this kind of safety measures that we can take, and I think we should take, because if we try to limit the data, actually it's still very easy for data leak. But of course, still as much as possible, we want to protect the data.
Because actually, it's just recently I also like found out from a lot of countries. Malaysia, probably some of the school, especially international school, they are using digital learning. And a lot of countries like in Australia and US, they are also moved to digital learning for so long. But like Finland and Sweden, they actually move back to traditional learning methods. So move back. So from digital learning, move back to traditional. So what actually I'm curious about is because when we're using digital learning, so there's tech companies, right? They develop all these programs. So what data that I'm worried about as an educator, because it's like behavioral data, you know, like how long I do this exercise, how much time I think, how much time I react to it. So such data, and also emotional data and connective data, how a student think about it and to answer the question. All this data actually, I'm curious, how would they be used?
Right. Definitely, I think if they are some company that only cares about making money, then they will use this data to maximize your engagement, so then they can make money out of you. And actually, if you're on social media or anywhere on the digital platform, they are going to collect your behavioral data. So when it comes to behavioral, what you can do is to activate your metacognition, because that's how you counter the when they use this behavioral data, what they tap into is like your emotional brain. It's like they kind of tap into your survival brain or your emotional brain, and then they want to keep you engaged. So to break out of that, then you need to activate your metacognition. But I think I wouldn't be worried that much if they are collecting my behavioral data, because like, I mean, if they don't collect it from me, they'll collect it from someone else as well. Compared to like personal privacy data, I feel like that's a bit more concerning.
How about the
Okay.
data we use on Google Map? When you use a Google Map or Waze, you have to kind of share your daily routine. That actually from point A to point B every day at this time, you know, over a period of time, it is very personal when you share the kind of the data.
Right.
Yeah. So the obvious data we are easy to protect. How about the data that indirectly it also point back to very specifically just me?
Understand.
Yeah.
So I think this comes to whether you trust that company or not. It's just the same with like banks, for example. They actually have all your data. But because they are institutions, they are actually bounded by law and regulations that they cannot simply use your data. So when it comes to all these, like let's say Waze or Google Map, because they are big companies, they obviously also have to follow certain laws. So they have to protect your data, unless they got hacked by someone. But then that's the problem that they need to face. But what we can do is like, very important, do not download suspicious app. Because big companies, they will be bounded by these rules and laws, but there are a lot of small companies that they have apps, I think, which is like kind of trending. Previously, a lot of people were using some apps to make like their AI face in the snow or those kind of thing. But sometimes when you just download this random app, if they are just from some random company and they are not from a big company, is actually they can use your data to do a lot of stuff. So that's the thing that we need to be careful lah. But I think something that at least if it's a big or trustable company, they are bounded by like law and so on. So technically, they can't do things with our private data. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, now I officially open space for every one of you to ask questions. Go ahead and ask questions, or you can give your reflections on whatever we have discussed here. Okay, if you're not able to talk, you can type. I will read your questions out loud. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually feeling curious to maybe wanted to learn from the parents here, right? How do you, what is your protocol? How do you manage this AI exposure with your kids? If I can learn one or two.
Okay, parents, go ahead. Protocol, or Asia, you might have protocol that you have heard from your learners who are parents as well. Please share.
I think it also depends on how old is your kid. Yeah, because for
Primary
like
four.
children and
Yeah.
like, and if compared to like, okay, children under 12 or like high school might
Under
be very
12.
different.
It's a children under 12. To
Okay,
be precise, 10 years old. Yeah.
right. And what sort of technology exposure does the kid have right now?
To be honest, I'm considered a very conservative parent.
Okay,
I myself is from IT, so I
right.
have all okay. I have this exposure, but might not be the expert. But
Mhm.
I do not really know now how to manage the kids with this AI exposure. So yeah, just trying to learn how other parents do that.
I think if I may share a bit of perspective, especially for younger children like yours, which they have not been exposed yet, what can the parent do is to guide their exposure to that. So instead of leaving it to them to do it themselves, it's good if you can explore together with them. And when you're exploring together with them, you explore it in the right way, in the human way. So then you are actually also acting as a role model for them. And they will learn from the interaction, they will mirror your pattern. So when they kind of use AI themselves in the future, they will follow the right protocols.
But I really like the fact today you shared about, we can actually set up some context on the system level, meaning, something before that requires a chat, the AI do not prompt the answer directly, but instead, having this interactive to explore to the answer. I think that could be a good tips to try out. But I must be next to him to to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
this
yeah,
set up
definitely.
together. Yeah.
Especially at the start, I think it's definitely much more guidance. How about other parents?
Yeah, how about other parents?
My baby is still very young. She is not even, she's just turned 15 months. So
Oh,
I cannot speak for any, I cannot speak for others, but I can speak for myself. I feels like I'm not sure, like, because I feel like it's kind of like a Pandora box, right?
Yes.
So even if because I would think for myself, if my parents show me in a way that they want me to learn in that way, I would be wanting or eager to learn it in my way. You know what I'm saying? So would I be the one who just opened the box of the Pandora box for her to testing different kinds of ways to explore the internet or like the AI um instead of like would they be like so good just to follow my instructions like word by word, you know what I'm saying? So I think maybe it could be a little bit difficult to really we can give them the
Yeah.
directions, we can give them
Yes. Yes.
the path, but then I'm not sure if my kids or even myself would be exactly following
Yeah.
my parents told
Yeah.
me to do. You know, maybe this way when they're around, I will just follow them. Okay, I will just press this button. I'm not going to touch anything else. But then when they're away, I will be like pulling out the laptop or whatever and then to punch in any words that I'm curious about because you know they could be very curious about the world. So
Yeah.
in what extent that I can protect them um, to not touching that kind of area is what I'm concerned about, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I really like your point about like if you are really doing it in certain way, then maybe the child will be like really rebellious and want to do it in their own way, which is a very fair point. That's why again it comes back to the art of like balancing, right? I think that's the most challenging part is like how do you balance that how much control, because I think if you overdo it when it goes like micromanage, then it's very easy for the kid to feel like I don't want to do it your way. And I think what might help is probably to ask more questions. And I think I like Poppy's when you talk about like we provide them the direction. So ultimately, the exploration they should learn by themselves. So we're not giving them answers or telling them exactly which button to press or what question to ask, but we can show and then we can ask them questions to help them engage in that reflective thinking. So then they will also be activating their metacognition as well.
I feels like it's almost like alcohol, you know? Like we like to what extent why we should be not like legally by laws we should not be selling alcohols to like underage kids because I feel like they don't have the I mean back in the time we don't even have that kind of control on ourselves because we don't know what is good or bad or you know we don't have the good thinking yet. So personally I actually agree on bending the social medias or like the intelligence, I mean AI, for the younger kids
Yeah.
because they don't really have that kind of control or they don't have that kind of ability to recognize what is good or bad for them. And as you said before, the AI, I mean all this kind of internet or social medias or the AI, they have the whole team backing them up to just lure you in. So I think personally, I feels like it's really hard for me to just give them to try to open this Pandora box
Yeah.
for a certain age, like let's say under 12 years old, you know,
Yes.
because it's just really dangerous.
Yeah. I
But
think definitely for younger kids, especially like if they are under 12, they are still developing their brain, which is like not developed yet. It's actually not really good for them to get addicted to AI. You still want them to
yeah.
interact with the physical world because that's how the brain develops.
Yeah, especially now, you know, the school, as Regina just said, in US, in Australia, they use, even in Hong Kong, you know, I'm from Hong Kong, so there's some school they use the like, super big screen and then they just play the YouTube to teach the kids underage. And then I was wondering, like, why would they do this kind of way? And then they were saying, oh, because, sooner or later they have to learn how to use technology anyways. That's what they're saying. So their approach is just to let them to approach this kind of big screen teaching at an early age, and then they thought that they could have the control for them to avoid to be addicted. But in my own sense, I feels like once you let them to touch it, this kind of Pandora box is already open, and then they just already got hooked already. It's like once you let them try the drugs, and they don't have the control to stop doing it, basically. So I think that is my personal
Yeah.
thinking of
Yeah.
maybe just not to give them yet.
I think there's a difference between like passive consumption and active usage. So if they are just like watching on a big screen, that's actually very passive. But if they are actively involving in the process, like for example, creating their own music box with AI circuits or something like that, or like creating their own sport car, that will actually help them to learn. At the same time, you actually give them exposure to like, oh, this is technology. So if you can create the sort of environment where they explore with it actively, I think that is that's a way lah.
Yeah, I see the beautiful parts of creating
Yeah.
with the AI. But what I'm saying is when they taste that kind of
Mhm.
beautifulness, with the AI, they
Mhm.
won't be stopping it. Because,
But there's no harm in like creating, right?
no, there's no harm in creating, but there's harm in they got hooked in that kind of device. Like even my baby girl, like I don't let her to
Yeah.
we don't watch TV at home, and just really I just minimize all the kind of digital device in front of her. But then the other time when we go travel, she will be touching the TV
Mm-hmm.
as if she already know that it could be a touch screen.
Yeah.
And then we were so surprised, like, where did she learn it from? Because,
Yeah.
she already can get the sense of, the touch screen, and then what more can she go further? So I know the beautiful part of creating things with your kids with the with the technology. But at the same time, maybe just only one time, you
Yeah.
already like
Yeah.
open that kind of
Yeah.
big box, as I said, the Pandora box, and they'll be like, whoa, this is such amazing tool. And I can play it without supervisions, or even with supervisions. Their heart might be like their curiosity just kind of like overrun everything already.
Yeah.
There's no rules,
Yeah.
on this kind of
Understand.
grounds.
But I think that actually it relates to what you said earlier. If you try to kind of not ask them to do something, at the end of the day, they will kind of want to do it more. In the same case, like even if you don't expose them to television, they will still kind of find it somewhere, somehow. So then back to the key thing of balancing is about the control that you mentioned. I think I know it's challenging, but that's the part where the control needs to, we can't say like totally ban them from doing something, but because they will kind of still get exposure outside unless you lock them in the tower or something. So it's about the balancing act.
Can I add on a little bit to what you were saying? Like, how do we get the children to do not over rely on the screen
Yeah.
or AI or the tools?
Yeah.
I think they mimic adults a lot. So if, let's say, parents use the tools a lot for creation, they will follow in the same manner. Like
Yes.
the parents, I mean, enjoy creating, enjoy learning. And in a way, I find that children will also enjoy the learning and enjoy the creation as well. So they don't see technology as a way to weaken them, in a way to overpower what they are able to produce, like essay. If the AI can produce a better essay, why should I compete with AI? I should focus in create something else that is not just the essay. I focus in creating the content, not the essay flow, something like that. So I focus in finding what are the other problem that has not been solved yet. So I think that will eventually, the better guide will be parents who spend more time with the kids. Because if we ask the educator about to use the conventional learning method, conventional learning measuring of the learning KPI, which is exam, produce an essay to write back about testing scope to try to guess what the examiner want you to answer in terms of this, but it do not actually represent how much you understand the context, actually. So that's why children will want to use AI to help them to answer, because they don't feel learning is happening. But I think we have to believe that humans are born with curiosity, that always want to learn, to know. It's just that there are things that we don't enjoy learning, and so that we pass to AI. That's how I notice in my kids. The things that they enjoy, they don't pass it to AI to do it for them. So for conventional school learning method, it's always what the teacher teach, and then eventually the measuring is at the final test or at the coursework output. Perhaps the method of the coursework output is not what the kids like to be tested on, and that's why they use AI. I find that many a times the things that they enjoy doing, they don't pass it to AI. They will do it by themselves. So it is our education that need a new measuring KPI to know how the learning already happened. Because when we say that we need to remove the AI, but it is impossible. We don't live in a world that removes the AI. It's just that we always need to disconnect, right? We find it very hard. We can only happen once in a while. How about we have to make peace with connection is everywhere, and we have to accept that certain thing that we let AI handle, and what are the new way of learning that could happen that we find it interesting in. Some people might be good in art, so they don't let AI create the art, but they let AI do all the mathematical calculation, science, and so on. Those people who enjoy engineering, maybe they don't pass the art, they will pass the art part to the AI because they don't enjoy it. Does it make sense?
Yep. Well, actually, so when we talk about learning, I think it's a big term because
Yes.
what we understand learning is just exam and assessment, but learning is more than that.
Mm.
If you look at the human being from the start, the moment that we born and the moment that we take our breath on, it's a moment of learning as well already. If you observe the baby, how they start to feeding moms, sucking the mom's breast, they are learning. And mother as well. The moment we have baby, we become mother. Without baby, we are not mother at all. So it's learning. Without students, we are not teachers. So we cannot be teacher if we don't have students. So it's all learning. So the learning the elements of learning is so huge, but by putting it into a framework, it's become limited. So that's why we have our conventional point of view of learning that's later on, it's actually became a lot of debate. Should we like how our children can learn better in this environment or that environment, etc., etc. But speaking of that, so it's like Poppy's questions and worries it's definitely understandable, which is reflect back to me myself as a parent. I actually using like even though, like, honestly speaking, as an unschooling family, we're quite free to do whatever, but it's only one thing I restricted is using digital. So I actually know the worries of Poppy is like Pandora. Yes, it is for me. So to be honest, and for the time being, like I share, like my son's going is back to school, right? So I'm not introducing AI, but since like when I'm working, I'm using. So I say this is the tool I introduced to him as what Inje has recommended. Yes, if you have to introduce AI together with him, you guide, you'll be the guide. But after all, I not at all, like I do not encourage, and then I don't see his words for the time being need AI. So no need at all, like for their life. For what they need, they need to play, they need to have free time, they need to have imagination. And so that's bring back to the earliest questions of Poppy as well, about how to actually, in what extent or degree, to guide them to think. So for me, I think for Inje and me myself, we are in this metacognition, the brain. But one thing I think we both agree, when we try to enhance thinking, we just not like cultivating like this. It's time, right? It's go many times of practice since children, since very young. When we read story to them, you pop questions, you ask, you discuss. That's improved thinking. Thinking don't come well. When we think thinking, we always think, oh, that's an idea. It's come automatically. But critical thinking need to nurture, need to practice, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That.
So,
Yeah, and I think like definitely if they are still children still very young, like 11, 12, under 12, I think definitely go out and play. Unless like they're a bit older, then when they have a lot of essay assignments and all, then probably that's when you can introduce AI to help, to assist with the learning. But definitely at early years is very important it's about physical interaction, because if you're using a digital screen, or it actually reduce that physical interaction, and actually that doesn't help with the development of the brain.
Can Regina, you share how can you prohibited your sons to use any digital at home
oh, I
for
just
so many years?
for so many years I don't introduce like we I because when we do learning and schooling, so of course digital using Google to check information is one of the easiest way, but there's a lot of things we can discover in nature, like I like natural work, so we work for nature, so have questions, so we ask with different people and expert. And then that's how. And then books, he reads a lot of books. So at the beginning we think reading, just cultivate reading. We think we need to read all the time. Actually cultivate readings from very time, as what I observe as children development. We have to play a lot, right? And then you have to play, you have to imagine the scenario, role play, storytelling, baking, cooking. All this is cultivating reading skills. So and all this while, so we are not using using a lot of digital until like later, so like 9 years old, 10 years old, he began to get interest like games, so playing games. So then he will have this playmate to play games, but try to limit the time. But it seems like it's started to build out this self-regulating system, like, okay, 1 hour is okay for me now. Yeah. So it's very so this is how we go through all this process. Copy, yeah. Anyway, I see it's 9:30. Thank you very much. Any questions? We take any questions before we wrap up the session? Oh, okay. Chia?
Yeah, actually my son is turning 12 this year as well. On the contrary to Regina, I actually give like total freedom to him. So I think the key takeaway from this session is really like with the AI, actually the question that I filled up in the form you shared with us earlier was how to balance it, like the usage of AI and all. So the key takeaway really is like, wow, now it's more important than ever to develop his EQ, his self-awareness, and really to instill that strong value so that he's not easily influenced. I mean, when all these are solid, I don't think like it's harder to waver when something is not right, then he perhaps can detect by himself. I hope that will happen. So yeah, I think also that you mentioned earlier, the literacy skill and arithmetic skill, the basic foundation must be there. Even for prompting skill, I think that helps a lot if
Yeah.
that skill is mastered properly.
And actually, prompting is communication. So
Yeah.
it's really about asking questions and how
Yeah.
you communicate.
Asking
And-
questions and then re-prompting and redirecting the ChatGPT to give us better, more accurate
Yeah. And
response.
also like expressing with a very specific way, because a lot of times we cannot say out what we think.
Correct.
Like even when you're prompting, you're like, I don't like this. Better, make it better. But what do you mean by better?
Yeah,
You know?
so it needs to be more accurate.
Yeah. So it's really an expressing skill. I think that's a new skill of the world.
Earlier you mentioned that you have a setting for ChatGPT. Can you share with us like how do you what's the exact thing?
Oh yeah, sure. I will find the prompt and share it with you guys.
Much appreciated.
So thank you, Inja, for sharing your thoughtful perspective, actually, yeah, and helping us to think more clearly about AI learning. And also we have touched on children's development. Oh, thank you for all the parents who joined us today.
Yes.
So whether you spoke or share or chat, just listen only this conversation. Do not actually end here because it's allowed us to continue to make our daily choice and reflect as parents and also responsible adults. So, Inge, last one thing that you wanted to give everyone to one important message, what would it be?
Actually, I think especially with more AI that's like getting more advanced, the kind of trend is like actually we want to be more human to balance that, right? And at the end of the day, it's actually very important to just take care of ourselves first. So I think that's one takeaway. Then it's like, yeah, definitely take care of our own brain first. Then only we can help our children, guide our children, or even use AI better ourselves.